Only 3 days into the conflict, Barack Obama is coming under increasing pressure in the United States to explain his strategy in Libya and what his endgame is. There's confusion about the timing of the US handover to NATO command and disagreement about whether Muammar Gaddafi can be targeted directly. The US commander says it isn't part of his mission, but a former US ambassador to the United Nations says it should be. In a broadside directed at the US president, John Bolton has told Lateline Barack Obama doesn't understand what he's doing and can't make hard decisions. Washington correspondent Craig McMurtry reports.
Brazil, now Chile. Barack Obama's under fire at home for being out of town when ordering the US-led attack on Libyan air defences. And he's being asked to reconcile his administration's call for Gaddafi to go with its support for a UN resolution that stops short of that.
First of all, I think it's very easy to square our military actions and our stated policies. Our military action is in support of an international mandate from the Security Council that specifically focuses on the humanitarian threat posed by Colonel Gaddafi to his people.
A missile strike on the Gaddafi compound has been described by the US commander of coalition forces as a legitimate attack and not an attempt to kill the Libyan leader.
Degrading that command and control facility would degrade the regime's ability to control its military forces.
Stuttgart-based General Carter Ham concedes that the UN-authorised mission could be completed without the removal of Muammar Gaddafi, an outcome he describes as less than ideal.
I would reiterate, though, that I have no mission to attack that person, and we are not doing so. We are not seeking his whereabouts or anything like that.
The mission is not clear at all. I think the U.S. interest at stake here is in removing Gaddafi from power.
Former US ambassador to the United Nations John Bolton believes the Obama administration has handcuffed itself.
I don't think the UN resolution actually limits the ability to use force in aid of the objective of the resolution itself, which talks about protecting innocent Libyan civilians. Now, since the principal threat to innocent Libyan civilians is Gaddafi, I think that gives us all the authority we need. Although, to those who would say it does not, I'd say I'd be prepared to ignore the resolution.
The conservative former Bush advisor who's contemplating a 2012 presidential run also says it was a mistake to refer the Libyan leader to the International Criminal Court because it removed any incentive for Gaddafi to accept a deal and go into exile. His criticism of Barack Obama's handling of the crisis and foreign policy in general is withering.
I don't think this man understands the world. I don't think he understands threats that America and its friends and its allies face. I don't think he's prepared to make the hard decisions to confront these threats and defend our interests. And I think this will lead to a weakening of America's position over time.
There's also confusion over what the UN resolution means precisely when it calls on coalition forces to use all means necessary to protect civilians. The US commander concedes that could extend to protecting armed civilians in the opposition.
Many in the opposition truly are civilians, and they are trying to protect their homes, their families, their businesses, and in doing that, some of them have taken up arms.
The State Department spokesman tied himself up in knots when asked if civilians supporting Gaddafi would be similarly protected.
Will the coalition act to protect civilians who support Gaddafi?
I'm sorry, you mean, well, I mean, we always, in what way? I'm unclear about,
I don't know,
you're talking about...
pretty direct.
Our rebel civilians, is, you know, they bear arms, therefore it would seem they don't meet the definition of being a civilian.
Guys, look, I'm just going to go with what I've said from the onset, which is that we are in an operation right now designed to end the violence, protect civilians, bring humanitarian aid to those civilians who've been under the siege from Gaddafi's forces.
While the Pentagon may be hoping that the current limited UN mission will be enough for the Libyan rebels to regain momentum, John Bolton believes by not explicitly targeting Colonel Gaddafi and ensuring his removal, the Obama administration is dooming itself to failure.
If we now fail to accomplish that, I think there's a very substantial chance he will return to engage in international terrorism and quite possibly return to his nuclear and chemical weapons programs.
He says unlike Iraq and Afghanistan, Barack Obama chose this war, and he believes as a consequence the president will be judged more harshly. Craig McMurtry, Lateline.